Yo, what's up? Today we're gonna examine one of the rarest and strangest weapons in the game, the Luftfaust B. This weapon of the last months of the war features some similarities to other weapons we're already used to, but also some very unique properties, so let's take a look at them. Looking at the obscure history of the weapon, it becomes clear that it was designed out of necessity and desperation, because when it was designed in 1944, the war was already going very bad for Germany, and the German soldiers and military leadership was faced with the situation that they A, didn't have any air superiority, that was long time gone, and B, the Allied planes were bombing and attacking everything, also convoys and villages and civilians on the ground with low ground attacks. So what the German leadership thought was a very practical way for normal soldiers to be able to shoot down planes. Because unlike in Enlisted, you can't just whip out your bolt action or SMG and shoot down planes. In real life, it was also possible, but it wasn't really reliable. Especially not against some better armored American and British planes in the last stage of the war. So what they wanted was a weapon that is handheld and can actually shoot down enemy planes. Now, this feature itself is extremely hard to accomplish because planes are flying very fast. If they're getting lower to the ground, they're getting even faster. And if you want to shoot them from far away enough before they can actually kill you, it's even harder to aim. So normal weapon types don't really work against planes in most situations unless you get very lucky. And you can't also rely on a soldier having enough experience and skill to be able to shoot down planes, because in Enlisted you can take any weapon, spend a couple dozen hours, spend a couple hundred shots on planes, and then in the end you will be able to reliably shoot down planes with your anti-tank rifle. But you can't do that in real life. No one has enough time or money to train soldiers like that, especially not if you're already losing a war and are desperate to find enough capable soldiers. So this was the attempt at a solution for this problem, a weapon that was extremely futuristic, also very ambitious, but also in the end sadly failed in all of the ideas because it's technologically so hard to do that the engineers themselves knew they would fail, but they still tried to come up with something, and this is what we got. The end product was a Panzerfaust looking weapon that featured 9 barrels and used 20mm anti-aircraft rounds. Every single of these almost 14 centimeter long rounds came in rocket propelled and was capable of dealing strong explosive damage on the planes if you actually land a hit. Problem with that was though that the weapon had a projected range of 500 meters. Though this was never actually reached, so the actual range was much lower, and out of the 10,000 launchers that were ordered and the 4 million rockets that had to be produced, almost nothing was produced, and in the end only 80 launchers were proven or were documented to be used by Germany itself, plus a bunch of them also featured on some black and white pictures of the last days in Berlin. So the weapon didn't have the success it was planned to have, but it still has some high potential, especially in the game where we can use it on some very creative ways. So let's take a look. First of all, how good is it against planes? Now here we are in Berlin against some Soviet plane that was quite low. Though we see if you don't see the plane very early and if you're not perfectly positioned relative to the plane, you can forget about it. The plane is ridiculously fast, even with good aim, it's almost impossible to hit it. And once the plane is high up in the air, yes. Even if we aim quite good, the range just isn't there. So yes, shooting down planes, unless you are very lucky and the plane comes from a very weak position, isn't really the best idea. But we can still use the weapon for some other purposes, like blowing up machine gun nests and blowing up groups of enemies. And this is also how I recommend using this weapon. Besides some very rare occasions where you can actually shoot down a plane, it's only really good against ground targets. But for this task, it's really good, because look at this. Anti-air guns, machine guns, anti-tank guns and similar structures are quite well protected, sometimes you need lots of shots, even with bolt actions or assault rifles to kill this. But this one shot, even if only one 20mm bullet hits, is more than enough to blow up a structure like that. And due to the explosive effect, you also are gonna kill everyone who is using this machine gun or is in close range to it. So this is one great thing. Another great thing is, if you see a group of enemies, just spray into this group and everyone's gonna be dead. Everyone's gonna be dead because it has some small high explosive effect, making this very similar to grenade launchers. But the advantage compared to grenade launchers is that since it flies extremely straight for a long distance, it's much easier to aim. Also, it's much more fun to use than a grenade launcher because you can use grenade launchers everywhere, literally every single nation has them. But this thing is unique and the explosion just looks amazing. And there's literally no more bigger fun that I had in the last days than trying to find groups of enemies and blowing them up. Blowing them up with these huge fireballs that the 20mm rounds of this weapon produce. The distance advantage compared to grenade launchers really shows here, where we're sitting on top of a ruin and you see the rockets fly very straight, in a very straight line, and it's very easy to hit targets no matter how far away they are. Though be careful, since it's 9 rockets that you're shooting, even the one rocket that's a little bit to the side, exactly, you see? We shot the enemies, we killed them, but 1 or 2 rockets hit the wall next to us, which gave us an explosion straight into our faces and we died. So always be careful, it's not worth it exploding yourself. Also be careful, the weapon reload, although you have a fast revolver-like reload mechanism, it still takes a while. And unlike other weapons that you're possibly used to, where you can quickly hide behind a wall or step to the side and quickly reload and then shoot back, this weapon is actually too slow to reload. So yes, you always need some cover to hide while you're reloading so you don't get shot. Another good advice is that when you're aiming at targets, aim higher than lower, because similar to HE rounds from tanks, if you hit something that's too low or if you hit the ground, you won't get much out of it because the high explosion effect isn't as high with these rockets obviously as with normal tank shells. But if you hit the body of a soldier, everything in the vicinity of the soldier is gonna explode. So aiming higher than you usually would, so not as I did here right now, aim a bit higher and you're gonna get much more kills. Also, good to see is the comparison between this weapon and other weapons. If you compare it to the best weapons in the game like FG42s, of course it's worse, because of course you're gonna get more and faster kills with an FG42. But compared to many other weapons, this is actually good, and the most important factor is it's actually very fun. Yeah, I could run around the whole day and blow up enemies with these giant fireballs. There's one big downside though, only anti-tank gunners can use it. And yes, guess what? You can't use your Panzerfaust anymore, meaning you won't be able to blow up tanks. I tried blowing up tank tracks with it, but even that doesn't seem to work reliably. So let's hope that the new battle rating system coming next month will give us some good matchups, because you can't blow up a single end or even mid to end tier Soviet tank with this thing. But American tanks, even some high-end American tanks, likely will be penetrable from the side with the Luftfaust. So let's see what the future brings and have fun with your new favorite toy, blowing up all those Soviets in Berlin that come too close to you, or even the ones who don't hide well enough on up to, I would say, 1 to 200 meter distance within the game. Alright, let me know what you think about the weapon and what fun you had with it so far. And until next time, goodbye.